I'm an alcoholic. My name's Kim. Good to be sober. I was, I work in technology. That's my job, right? I work in technology, and I've been doing that for a long time, and so it's been since whenever I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to work for a technology company. And so you'd think in all that I would remember to check my text today so Shar could tell me that they canceled dinner. So I've been driving around. I grew up about a block and a half away from here, over on 39th South or so. And that's where I raised up. So I had the opportunity to kind of go down memory lane, drive around my old neighborhood, see my old house, see the place I used to get drunk, do a little dry goods. My first relationship, which lasted 3 or 4 minutes, that kind of stuff. It was wonderful. So I went around to the old thing, and it was really kind of interesting because when I would have driven around 35 years ago, when I first got sober, if I drove around, I would have had these sick feelings, all these bitter memories, and all this pain about the way I was and the way I lived. And it was kind of cool today to kind of have that retrospect where I could go around and I could smile, enjoy myself, and have some fond memories about growing up. Now, if I would have, we had an old house, one of those old, they used to, polygamous house, a lot of rooms and shit, yeah, a lot of rooms, 2 bedrooms, big thing. Anyway, I was raised up in a big house, and I remember when I was there, I would go to the house, and they had one of those. A few guys know what stereos are, right? Got the old platters. Not everybody knows what this is. It's like a record, and you have this stack of records. And I would sit in the dark in that house. I drove by, sit in the dark in that house, and I'd play this really sad music, And if I were to take that information to a career counselor, and I would have said, look, what do you really enjoy? What do you want to be when you grow up? Well, let's see, I sit in this house with a bunch of really sad records in the dark and just listen to stuff. And, okay, you're going to grow up to be an alcoholic and drug addict. So I was like, I'll tell you, I'd be really good at that. My sobriety date is December 29th, 1984. For that, I'm very, very grateful. Been a long time, one day at a time, and that's the key. 30 days, congratulations. 35 years, not so much. 30 days, big deal. Big deal. Longest 30 days of my life, that first few days. So congratulations. I'm glad you're here. Stay in the game. That's all I can say. I probably the topic of my choice, I was telling a friend over there what I should talk about. And I was interesting because I hadn't really been told that you were talking about the third anything, third tradition, third whatever. So I had some time to kill, obviously, because there was no dinner. So I went and got a little bit something to eat, and I was sat in the parking lot. I said, well, I think I ought to get a topic. So I opened the book, and I opened it up, and I went to page 63. Amazing. And it has a little part here that says, we were at step 3, right? But before that, the paragraph that kind of, because you're really honing in on that third step prayer, right? It's the paragraph before that says, when we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer. Being all-powerful, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. As we felt a new power flow in, we enjoyed peace of mind, and we discovered we could face life successfully. And we became conscious of his presence. We began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter we were reborn. Anybody had a little fear lately? Anything going on? I got this vision. I was thinking about, things that are going on around me. And, my morning meditation. I was thinking about people buying all those weapons and toilet paper. So let's put that together, okay? As a group. Let's put that together, right? So you sit in the bathroom on the commode and guard the toilet paper with your AK-47. I just got this visual picture. So tomorrow morning when you're doing meditation, come on. Yeah. Well, no, a new fear and a new happiness, right? So it's been crazy. It's been really crazy. It's been interesting. Over the last 10 or 12 days, I've gotten calls from guys I've sponsored over the years. Some of them I've sponsored for maybe 15 or 20 years. And they're not fearful in the sense, but they're just a little bit off balance, right? So many things are changing. So what a lot of times I fear is not fear itself, but change. I just hate it. Don't you hate change? You got this really good job. You're trying to make a little bit of money. You got one of them girlfriends, and, she's not chasing you out of her house or anything or calling the cops, not like the old days. She's actually likes you a little bit, and things are rolling, and you get a new boss. Fear comes in, right? Oh, shit. What's he going to be like? What's she going to be like? How is he going to get? Can I be able to screw off like I do now? Can I be able to take an hour and a half lunch like I do now? Have you ever noticed alcoholics? I love that. Alcoholics are great when they describe, when they first get to Alcoholics Anonymous, they always say stuff like this. I did it. God, I can't believe that guy at work. What a jerk. I mean, I bust my ass for 4 hours. I can't believe it. Now, alcoholics never say they worked hard. They always bust their ass. I mean, why is that? And don't we work an 8-hour shift? I mean, I'm just not putting that together. So I guess for me, is as I look back at this process of getting sober, is that I feared change. Sobriety is change, isn't it? Isn't this life change? I mean, it was for me. I had some expectations of what sobriety meant. What I really thought was not drinking, right? Because my problem was drinking, right? Wrong. I had something called alcoholism, and I didn't know what that was. And I thought you treated alcoholism by not drinking, and that's what I did. Not having a full social calendar, I thought I'd go to A&A. Well, that's not exactly correct. I went to a really small treatment center. Have you ever seen the movie Clean and Sober? It's an old one, I know. Some of you guys have probably seen Clean and Sober. Looks like the treatment center I was in. And it was so shitty and so small that after 4 or 5 days, they came up to me and said, "Hey, kid, do you have a driver's license?" And I said, "Sure." And he says, "Is it valid?" And I said, "Sure." A little bit of a hesitancy in my voice. And they said, "Would you drive people to the AA meeting tonight?" So at 4 days of sobriety, I'm driving the van to the AA meeting. Now, I got to be honest here. When I got in that van, I thought, we could just take off. We could, I was in Kansas City when I got sober in Kansas City. And, on my mind just flashed the number of places we could go to. Boom. But, it drove to the AA meeting, and I drove it back. And I got sober. Now, the difference between sobriety, which is not drinking, sobriety, I don't drink, and sobriety is huge. It's the idea that what I pray today. I used to pray, "Please, God, help me not to drink today. Help me not do any dry goods. And help me not to shoot my mouth off. And help me not to kill anybody." I had a lot of wishes there, and that was about it. And I have a friend a guy I've sponsored for over 30 years now. Good guy, lives in Georgia. And I say, how you doing, Ken? How'd it go today? And he says, "Kim, I didn't drink. And I didn't shoot my mouth off, and I didn't kill anybody." And some days that's the best you can do. I don't care how long you've been sober, you can have bad days. I've had bad days. Some of the friends around here that I see have had bad days. But you don't drink, no matter what. No matter what. Anybody had any pain in sobriety? I have. Oh, I forgot to tell you, I'm a pussy sometimes, and I get a little emotional. So I should have warned you, right? Sorry. And so I bought a house down in St. George. I have a second house down in St. George. I don't know why. No, I do. My wife wanted it. And I've been married in sobriety for almost 35 years, which is kind of cool. Because I was married a lot before I got sober. And some of them I actually got married. Some of it was just overnight. But I was married a lot. I have 3 ex-wives. And I have 1 wife in sobriety. Now, if you don't see the difference there, you ain't paying attention. Because if I can stay in a relationship for 35 years and be married every other year, that's like a difference. Ergo, change, right? Now, I was pretty fearful about that. Crazy, huh? Why was I be fearful about that? Because in the whole time in my entire life, I never committed to a relationship ever. I never committed to any relationship ever. I always went in with the idea that it would end. And when I met my wife, and we decided to start getting serious, I remember I hugged her one day in my house, and here was my prayer. God, please, please, help this relationship to last 2 years. 2 years. That's my expectation, because that's how long my relationships last. I didn't know how to commit to a relationship. I've got the Truth Squad with me tonight, over there, that couple rows there, and one in the back. These guys don't know how to commit either, just so you know. That's why I'm their sponsor. I don't know, man. I've been going with her for 18 years, but I'm pretty close to asking her to live with me. No. What? 18 years, really? When you hit 20, go for it. So, we don't do well. Guys, I'm sure women have the same issue. I'm not going to be sexist here, but I know a lot of guys have a real hard time committing to relationships. It's kind of like, committing in a relationship for this guy was kind of like sitting on a couch, legs spread open, naked, with a sign that says, "Kick me." That's what it felt like in my mind, Just kick me, because that's how painful it's going to be. But in reality, it wasn't that bad. Now, I married my wife after 6 months in being sober. Now, people say, you have that thing about don't get in a relationship until a year. Now, I've known her for like 5 years on and off, so I did a lot of the other part before I got sober. And we got married. And I didn't commit to that woman until I was 4 years sober. Now, I'm not telling you anything out of school. I've told her that. Because I didn't think that I could not stay in a relationship. I had these antennas on my head for the first 4 years of my sobriety. I was always looking for her. That second one. Just in case this one didn't work out. Anybody ever do that? Any of you women ever do that? Go on. And what that did was, by that commitment to my wife, her name's Cheryl, by the way, those antennas went back into my head. And I have women that are friends. I have women that I enjoy being company with. There are people that I can have relationships with, women that are friendships. I could never do that 35 years ago. There's people in this room. Now, Char and I are a little bit different. We both have the same problem when we got here. We were both God's gift to women. So, a little bit of difference. But we still love each other greatly. But the reality of it is I didn't know how to do that. And you guys showed me how to commit to a relationship. And that was change. So I was afraid to do that. If I think about all the changes you asked me to do, I didn't want to do them. And I stood behind that barrier that a lot of you guys have and some of us have. And it's the one that says, my case is different, and you don't understand. My case is different, and you don't understand. I'm not really an alcoholic like you. I'm kind of a special alcoholic. Anybody special alcoholic in here? Isn't that interesting? I always ask that question. I know who you are, but you never raise your hands. Why is that? We just don't want to really tell the truth. The truth is that's what I believed. I believed I was special. I was highly intelligent. God, I'm no smarter than Smokey the Bear, trust me. But I thought I was highly intelligent, and I had a job. And my car had license plates on that I paid for. Now, it wasn't licensed in the year that I was in. But I was close. I was only a year old. The tires were almost tread-like. I call tread-ish. So, I wasn't like you guys, and I had a job. It was a terrible job, but I had a job. So my case was different. Now, I'm going to tell you, I hear guys come sometimes speak at a meeting, they'll say, God, I've been in jail 400 times, I've killed 7 people, and then things got worse. That's not me. I've been to treatment once, and I drove the van. So that's my one time. Now, that doesn't make me special. That makes me done. The 10 years from 1974, when I got out of the Marine Corps, until I got into Alcoholics Anonymous in 1984, I quit drinking 6 times. 6 times. Once for a year. And I didn't come to Alcoholics Anonymous, didn't go to the treatment center. I just quit. And people were trying to buy me drinks. All the people that knew me wanted me to drink again because I was, there's really no word for it, but it's a combination of several words. Most of them start with A, And I was incredibly angry and incredibly hard to be around. And I would always drink again. 1974 to 1975, I did not drink. The next time I tried to quit was about 2 years later. It lasted about 9 months. The next time I tried to quit, it lasted about 6. And I noticed the intervening time that I drank became longer, and the time that I didn't drink became shorter. In 1979, I quit trying to quit. And I just decided to control and enjoy my drinking. Now, I've had times when I could control it, but I didn't really enjoy it. And I had times when I could enjoy it, but I really couldn't control it. One time I tried my favorite thing I did was I would make a yoga bar when you drink out of state. When they used to have liquor by the drink here, but you could put like rings of those little straws, and make rings out of them. So that's how I would control my drinking. I said, when I get a ring of 4, I'll quit for tonight. And then after the 4th one, I just throw it away and order another drink. And then I wrote C on the back of my hand to remind me to control my drinking tonight. And then pretty soon, lick it off. I really didn't think that. I thought it was the numbers of drinks, so I would count my drinks. I'd do things like that, and I tried to control it. From 1979 to 1984, it got progressively worse. In December of 1984, back up. In October of 1984, I rolled out of bed. I crawled into the bathroom. At this point, I was peeing blood, as a lot of us do. Very colorful, but not very healthy. I pulled myself up to the sink. I looked into the mirror, and I looked into my eyes. Now, for the guys that shave, many of you don't, but I shaved. You learn when you're drinking to shave without looking into your eyes. You learn how to do that. And on that morning, I looked into my eyes. And I had this epiphany that everyone in my life, my ex-wives, my children, my family would be better off if I was dead. And that was 3 months before I quit drinking. Because that's the way I felt, is that I was going to die and it would be better for everyone that knew me. And I drank another few months until December of 1984, when I could not stand the pain of drinking anymore and went into a treatment center. And that was a long time ago. And they introduced me to Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, I don't know about your experience in treatment centers, right? It's like they always showed up in threes. I don't know how they do it around here, but they always show up in threes. We make fun of them. If you're in treatment, you always make fun of the guys that come out to the speakers. Mo Curley and Larry. That was my personal favorite. And then, just make fun of them, call them names. What that old guy, he doesn't know what it's like to be cool like me. And all that stuff. And then it was terrible. But I was in a lot of pain after a couple of weeks. A lot of pain, emotional pain. And after the meeting, there was a guy, a young guy, he'd only come about 90 days sober. His name was Dwayne. And I went up to him and I says, man, what are you doing to stay sober? How do you stay sober for 90 days? Because I believed him. There was something about him. In the big book, it says there was something about his eyes. When Ebby came to Bill, right, there's something about his eyes. There's this knowledge that you just know. There's this spiritual connection. And I just went up to him and I says, man, how did you stay sober? And he said, I hang out with these guys. He says, I get drunk. We stay sober. And it's funny what you remember when you've been sober a long time. It's those little epiphanies that somebody gets you that hits you in the heart. And you realize at that moment, you cannot do this alone. And I would have to subordinate my judgment to somebody I didn't like or know or understand. And I had to learn it from strangers. Not my family, not my parents, from strangers. Just like you. Some of you I know, some of you I do not. But we're the same if you call yourself an alcoholic. We know what it's like to be alone. We know what it's like to be in fear. Not the kind of fear that we conjure up, but that cold fear, that deep fear. We know what that's like. And when all this is going on, all this craziness, and people are sitting on the commode with the AK-47 protecting the toilet paper, you've got to remember that tomorrow. I'm going to hold you to it. That's not the fear that I'm talking about. You know, today, I want to be genuine. I want to be transparent with the people that I'm with. You know, the guys that I work with in Alcoholics Anonymous, and somebody was bringing up when they spoke, and thanks, Jerry. Jerry's an old friend of mine. And I got to meet, was it Brady? Yeah, got to meet you tonight. You guys got great leads. Because one of the things that you said was important to me is how important it is to start understanding what we do here. You know, when you talk about what we do here, I didn't know what we do here. And now in this group, as not a lot of groups do, you talk about the concepts. You talk about the traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous and how you can be a part of this thing. That is a cool thing. That is a unique thing to this valley that I'm aware of. That you guys take the time not only to talk about the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, but also the other things that surround and make it strong. The foundation of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's a cool thing. So I appreciate that. And I enjoy listening to that type of information. And what you guys talk about in here makes me a part of your group because I get to hear what you have to say and I identify with it. But I didn't when I got here, like I said, because my case is different and you don't understand. In the last 35 years, I've done a lot of work with other people and other men, but what you talked about today about the new normal, they've got a cool thing in technology now that I had to depend on. When I moved down to that little house in St. George, I had guys I was working with. Some of them were on the 5th step, or they were on the 6th step, or they were right in the middle of the 12 and 12, and we were going through the book together, and I says, man, if you wanted me to work with you, I'm sorry, you're going to have to sponsor, you're going to have to learn to use one of these technologies. And so what I did is I started sending links to them. And it was kind of funny at first because they click on the link and you hear them, see them going. And they flipping on things. Pretty soon they'd figure it out. And they get a headset on, little mouthpiece, and now they're cool. You know, hey Kim, how you doing? And they tap the thing. And we'd sit there and we'd have this thing. We open the book, and some of these guys are in this room today. And we go through the book on the internet. And that was months ago. That was in October. And I think I'm now ready for COVID-19. Go on Teams, you know. Because you never know how this thing is going to go. Because of all the people that there's only a few of us, really. They're in that group. So I have to be careful, I suppose. I try to respect this disease. I try to respect the fact that it could, for people like me that are older, our immune systems are tough. So I respect it. But I'm not going to live in my house 24/7. I'm going to come to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm going to be a part of AA. I'm going to be here. Because I was asked to be here, I will be here. Because this is what makes my life make sense. One day I was sitting in my study, which some of you have been in, and someone asked me, said, what does AA really given you? And I can say it simply that what it's given me, it's given me passion. It's given me purpose. And for a guy that had none of that, to have purpose and to have passion about anything is enormous. But I have a purpose and a passion for the work in Alcoholics Anonymous that sustains me. And some days the doorbell rings, or the phone rings, or I look at my alarm goes off on my text that I don't check. And I realize that I've got to get online with this guy. And sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes I want to do something different. But I go in there, and within a few minutes, the passion comes back. My purpose comes back. And I have this connection. If you are in Alcoholics Anonymous and you don't have a spiritual connection with someone in this room, or someone that you call sponsor, or a friend of yours, you got to look at what you're doing. Because there's people in this room like I haven't seen in months, and I have a connection with these people. And it's like we've never not seen them. We can sit there, and in a few minutes, we're smiling at each other, and we're being a part of each other's lives, and we're joking and being just, and everything that I brought in here, whether it's good or bad, melts away, and all I see is that person. One of the enormous blessings of being an Alcoholics Anonymous is being in a room with someone and they become the most important person in your life. Not my wife. Now, as soon as they leave, they go way down. I got to tell you, but for that hour, because they are the most important person in my life. And it's amazing. And I've seen them grow up. There's a guy in the room I call Junior. And I saw him, and he was like God, about this big around, scared to death, And it was just amazing to watch him. And he's a tweaker. I love tweakers. Do you love tweakers? I love tweakers. He's a tweaker. That's how you do. And say, and just relax, man. And he's the only guy I've ever sponsored. I don't say. I did not ever ask him, would you like some coffee? I didn't. No, we're not going there, buddy. We're not going there. And he came over to my house at 7 o'clock on Saturday mornings in his pajamas. Swear to God. And he would sit in my front room in his pajamas, and he would go through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, here's the interesting part, because we're getting to the end here. Now, if you stacked all the dry goods that I took ever in my life, they were more of an appetizer in my life for the main event, which was gin. And so if you could put like a 16-ounce cup here, and you could fit every dry good I've ever taken in that cup. In this particular case, you could fit every bit of alcohol in that cup of this guy. But we are the same. Because this made the difference. As I went through the pages with him, he started to see that I was like him on the inside. Not the thing that I used, but the thing that was going on that drove us to use dry goods and alcohol was the same on the inside. That's where we connect. That's where I connect with them, is on the inside. That's that spiritual connection that makes us a part that cannot be broken. My first sponsor has passed. I have one other sponsor. I've never fired my sponsor. Ain't that a bitch? Boy, did I want to. God, I've had the same sponsor for 33 years. And sometimes I've sworn at him. But I've hung there with him. And he's my sponsor today. And I have that spiritual connection with him that cannot be broken. And here's that spooky shit. I also have that spiritual connection with my first sponsor. And I haven't seen him in 33 years that cannot be broken. I can still see him and hear his voice today. That connection cannot be broken if you stay in the game. Now, I know there's people here tonight. If you're out on a night like this, you probably got some pain in your life. Maybe there's something going on. Maybe you don't understand it. Maybe you're fearful about guns and toilet paper. But whatever it is, we'll get you through it. Whatever it is. Just stay in the game. Stay here with us. Whether it's in this group or out in the North 40 where I live out in Draper, that's a place, really. It's south. It's Draper. Okay, one quick story. I know I'm running slightly over, and if I am, I'm willing to be forgiven. This book I carry with me when I speak. This is a second edition. If you guys recognize it, it's kind of cool. It's got the kind of the squirrely writing on it, side of the thing. And this was my uncle's book. His name was Uncle Wayne. Now, Uncle Wayne died on 2nd South. For those old guys that maybe lived around here, on 2nd South and 2nd West, that's where the hookers were, right? And they had all these cool bars, and they were little bars, and they were shitty bars, and it was like the 3 Aces and that kind of stuff. And then in the back, and then upstairs, they had these really kind of, the fire marshal would burn that place down before, it was terrible. And you went to the back, right? Now, I'd never been around to the back. I'm just saying. Because when I was 10 years old, I went there with my father. And I went there with my father to pick up Wayne's stuff. And Wayne was an alcoholic. And he was hit over the head in one of those little shitty apartments above that place. And he bled out there on the floor. And we went to that place to pick up his stuff. And there was a little box of books. I was 10 years old. My dad says, "Can you handle that, Kim?" And he hands me this box of books. About this big. I said, "Sure, Dad." And I walk it over to the car, and he's got some clothes, and he's got another little box with some tchotchke and little knickknacks and stuff. And that was it. That was the entire amount of his stuff. Now, this guy was a veteran of World War II. He was at Anzio Beach. He died of alcoholism. This is his book. If you look on here, it's got circles because it's like a coaster. I'll use this later. Yeah. So it was a coaster, and so anyway, I picked up this box of books, put it in the back of the car, and I went to treatment, came back, come back to Salt Lake, I'm making a fast, and I went in to see my dad and mom, and I tell them where I've been because I disappeared. I wasn't calling them. They were trying to find me. I was sitting in a treatment center, et cetera, et cetera. So I kept talking to my parents about Alcoholics Anonymous. I said, "Well, I'm going to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings." And he said, "They've got this thing called the Big Book." And I read the book. And he said, "What's the Big Book? Big Book, what does it look like?" And I says, "It's blue, and it's big." And he says, "Well, wait here." And I'm right in the middle of my story. I just went downstairs. And he brings this box of books up. Same box. And he reaches into this box of books, and he pulls out this book. Now, in here, in the leaf of this book, it says 9 a.m. Sunday, the meeting, right? 9 a.m. meet Sunday. And on this side, it has a D, and it has a dash and a 1, and a dash and a 2, and a dash and a 3. He drank and he stayed sober for 3 days. This was his book. But he always carried it. And I carried it out of there. For years, I would take this out and I would speak to groups like this. And I would say, and he never got sober, and this was his book. And I was standing there talking to a group just like this. And all of a sudden, something hit me that I'll never forget. Yeah, he died of alcoholism. He died a terrible death. But maybe, just maybe, the people that brought him this book stayed sober. Maybe that's what it's about. See, I can't get anybody sober and I can't save you. But I can give you a book. And that book may save your life. It did mine. Thank you for asking me to say.